the Football Pod on Off the Ball in partnership with AIB, proud sponsors of the Football, Hurling and Camogie All-Ireland Club Championships. Hashtag the toughest.
Live from the Hogan Stand Suite in Croke Park. Please welcome your host for the evening, your favourite pod trouble, Tommy Rooney, Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue.
Okay, go for it now. How are you, lads? Look at big Sam. Wow. How are you all doing? This is amazing. Look at this, lads. Croke Park. When was the last time you performed here, James?
Oh. Some would say never. What could I do? 19 came on in the replay.
Yeah.
Lost.
You lost. You did have some good days in Croke Park, right?
Few. 13, 14. A few good days in 15 up until the final we lost against the boys. But
yeah. Paddy never really had any problem performing under pressure, did you?
Just in the bedroom.
Yeah.
1-0.
Yeah. Well, look, I've definitely felt the pressure this week. We've an amazing crowd here. Thanks a million to everybody who's travelled over and came from all parts of the country and all over the world. There's people flying in from all over. I don't know if it's for the show. You might be coming back for the All-Ireland final. It's going to be a great occasion this weekend. Yeah. It looks amazing. Being in Croke Park is unbelievable, so thanks to AIB and Off the Ball who've made the place look unreal. We did want to have a look at some of your big days in Croke Park, and Paddy insisted that we find a video of every single point that he's ever scored in an All-Ireland final. So let's have a look.
Rock again, back now towards Paddy Andrews. Onto his right-hand side, hitting it under pressure, but hitting it truly, following through brilliantly and putting over his first point of this match. The highly taking up some very good positions, Dean Rock, and good decision-making as well. That's a good ball ahead to Paddy Andrews.
2015, Paddy, is it?
Dublin trying to stretch their lead here.
There you go.
Andrews kicking, as he did in the semi-final. First opportunity he's got ready to...
This is the 2016 replay coming up. The Dubs had only scored a point from play, 33rd minute. You'd come off the bench after a black card. Look at that.
Oh.
And then a couple of minutes later. You were lucky that day, weren't you? James, he could play a bit of football, couldn't he?
I was just thinking, most of them were steps.
Yeah.
Who was refereeing? Goff.
Special guest David Goff for coming tonight. Goffer, fair play to you. Six tickets for him. Yeah,
we can hear Paddy now.
We're back.
Great.
No, it was great scores, wasn't it? Glory days, huh? Yeah, hard bet.
4 points, 7 All-Ireland medals. Pretty good record in All-Ireland finals. No. Jesus, can't sniff at that. James O'Donoghue, you played in 2014. You won the All-Ireland. Mm-hmm. You won Footballer of the Year that year. How on earth did you win Footballer of the Year and you didn't score in the All-Ireland final?
I was on assist duties that day.
Playmaker.
Assists are more important than scores these days.
Says who?
No, I missed a couple of handy ones, all right. Disappointing. And we got no frees. You usually chip 1 or 2 handy frees and take the credit for it. We didn't get any of them. But, do you know what? In 14, I was actually kind of... We knew that Donegal had a small full back line, so...
And you're
I was told, get out of there. You were not needed today. So we had Gainey and Donaghy inside, kind of a new take on the Twin Towers situation. So my job was just kick it in.
Yeah, it worked.
That's my explanation of not scoring in a final anyway.
2015, the Dubs bet you. But you did have a good day. We might have a look at that in the rain. Could be a similar day this weekend.
Yeah.
Down to Gainey, touched it beautifully to Buckley. Setting a chance up for James O'Donoghue, settled his feet and put it beautifully over. That's one they needed just to reassure themselves here to Cooper. looking to get more involved.
Very nice.
On the gooch.
To James O'Donoghue. Trying to steal a march here on Johnny Cooper. Puts his toe behind it and puts it over the bar as well. Really good score.
Well, from that little wizard.
Anthony Marr back here. Back to Cooper. Provider. Fumbled initially. Darren O'Sullivan back in as far as James O'Donoghue.
Three, Jimmy. This thing is an
He
answer.
steers that one over the bar and he's
Is it?
got 3 in this match.
Yeah, Paddy, that was the first. That was the third All Ireland the Dubs won in that decade. It was your second.
Yeah.
There's some great photos of you after it. I mightn't have them up here, but you celebrated that All Ireland. You really did. Like that was a big one for you, I reckon.
Was we lost the previous year, the semi-final to Donegal, so Kerry got a handy All Ireland. They didn't have to beat us. But no, that was a big one for us to come back. We felt we kind of left 14 behind us, so we had a big battle with Mayo, obviously, which kind of would set the tone for the next decade, and we got over that in a replay in the semi. And then look, no more so than Sunday, with Dublin-Kerry playing a final. It's a special day. It was an absolute fucking disaster with the rain. Like we were saying, we're all the players on side. And the style of play both of those teams played, total attacking football, and the match finished 12-9. So it wasn't a classic, but once you win those games, you were happy enough. And to be fair to Jimmy, you were decent that day. Credit, like 3
Thanks,
points.
Paddy.
That's not bad now.
That's the first compliment you've ever given me.
It's a glorious day today. We've got it in Croke Park now. We're inside. We did ask could they open the hill, but wasn't happening today. But we'll take this. Hopefully on Sunday the weather isn't as bad as it is now, because it would affect the game, wouldn't it?
It would, but I think the two best conditions you can play in are either an unbelievably nice day where the ball is moving fast, or a slightly wet day where the rain is actually stopped. But it was wet in the morning maybe because it allows cornerbacks to make mistakes. You know, like in the underfooting conditions, if the ball's kicked in fast, a zippy surface, and a forward just does a kind of a hip shimmy, it allows defenders to make mistakes and it creates goal chances. So as much as people want to kind of play in a great day, sometimes as a forward it's nice to play on a slightly rainy day. Yeah. And Jack O'Shea used to always say, when he opened the curtains on the morning of an All-Ireland, no matter what the weather was, if it was a beautiful day, he'd open the curtains and he'd go, just what I wanted. And if it was monsoon, he'd open the curtains, just what I wanted. So I think you have to kind of be ready for anything, but I think the boys will be.
Yeah, Paddy, have you had a busy week? All-Ireland final week, Dublin-Kerry. Have you kept the head down, or what have you been at?
This week, or when we were playing, very different now. When we were playing, we were a little bit weird. Like we were hermits. Like we wouldn't talk to anyone, wouldn't engage in anything.
What changed this week?
This is a fucking stitch up from the start. That's a great promotion, lads. It's a great promotion. This, like, now that you're off the scene and you're washed up, it's there's great gigs on All Ireland Week. Oh, man. I'll tell you a funny story about that one. With AIB sponsors the show tonight.
How did I not get that AIB gig and I'm working with AIB?
They're already paying you enough, Julie. AIB ring you last week. They're doing a ticket giveaway for Sunday. Yeah, so look, listen, we're going to promote this on Tuesday in Clonagale Fountain, over in Ringsend. They go, come down and a couple of snaps. I was like, 100%, I'll do that, yeah, no problem. I'll sell it. So, and they're like, Barry John Keane is going to do it with you from Kerry. And I was like, lovely, great bit of stuff. Barry John's going to come up and spend the day in Dublin, make a day of it. So, we'll be out to Clonagale on Tuesday morning, and there's a big fake ATM in the middle of the pitch. And I was like, what have I got into here? And there's the marketing team there, and there's a sports photographer. Look, it took about 3 hours to get that shot. Look at that. Pure class. So anyone who knows me, since I finished playing, I have engaged in some dental work. My nostrils were hanging off by the end of my career, so I said, right, a bit of showbiz here now. I'll get a bit of work done, get the old Invisalign, get the teeth whitened, all that good stuff. I think.
Turkey, no?
No, not Turkey, no, home-based. So when I got them done, and I looked at them and go, they're a bit spicy, they're a bit white. So I went to do a gig, and I'll never smile. I'll just keep the head down, and I'll be grand, conscious of it. So you arrive into a photo shoot with your man, and it's Barry John's coming over, and I'm smiling, I'm dead serious, real professional, you know. And Barry John arrives in then, And he's all action, smiling, laughing away. And I look over and I realise I'm not the only one who's got the teeth on. Barry John arrives in, and I swear to God, he's like Bobby Firmino. I need to put the shades on. I'm like, fucking hell. Bah, it's good to see you. Listen, a bit of chat there before. And then the marketing guy is like, right, lads, come on. You have to actually do a couple of photos here. So we sit there, we're leaning on the fake ATM machine again. And we're dead serious, because it's like the All-Ireland final. Dubs and Kerry, like, no, there's no messing here. Like. And then your man kind of goes, lads, this is a promotion, like, we're advertising, we're meant to be having fun. Could you do maybe smile for a couple of photos? And I'm like, oh, fuck. And your man, sports photographer, goes, yeah, lads, do you know what? On the count of 3, give us your biggest smile, like you're having the best fun. So I look at Barry John, and he looks at me, and I go, they asked for it. So your man counts down, 3, 2, 1. And I swear to God, me and Barry John have shit-eating grins. Your man's camera nearly fucking broke. He turns around, he's blowing the light off both our teeth. And he turns around, he's kind of laughing, and goes, lads, listen, we're probably going to have to take that shot again. He gets the lads over to start fixing the light and lowering the shade for our teeth. And I'm just going, he asked for it. And you can see him laughing. He's there thinking, I'm a fucking photographer in Ringsend with 2 ex-GAA players. And 2 of them are smiling at me like they're fucking Tom Cruise there. So that was my Tuesday morning doing the gigs for AIB. But great cause, great partners, aren't they? Yeah. The toughest.
AIB were actually giving away tickets at that event, and with thanks to AIB, everyone in the room tonight would have an opportunity to win. Actually, I phrased that wrong. There isn't one for everyone in the audience. There's one pair of tickets that somebody in the audience will win tonight. So we'll give you a little bit more detail on that later.
It's under your seat.
It's all with thanks to AIB. No, James, we did that the last time. Not going to do it this time. Jimmy, All-Ireland final week. What was it like down in Clarny? Would you get plagued for tickets? Would you be
Yeah, you would turn into the most popular man in Kerry over tickets, because obviously Dublin get 90% of the tickets in Croke Park. We get 7 or 8 between us then. But I remember there was one time we were playing Dublin. It wasn't a final, it was actually a semi-final. We were playing the Dubs in 16. And I had to go I was getting physio in Dublin with Colin Fuller, great physio. I don't know, did you use him in Santry? And I had to go up to him for a day, and Kerry were going on a kind of a weekend training session the same weekend. And I said to Eamon Fitzmaher, I said, Eamon, I can't go on that training weekend. I need to go to Fuller in Santry, get my shoulder right. And he thought I was a bit scatty, and he didn't really trust if I'd go to the physio, I'd take the weekend off, I'd say. So he goes, look, James, you can go, but I don't want to hear now that you fucking missed the train or something happened that you didn't end up going to the physio. I said, no problem. So I went up. I took the day off work on the Friday, went up, stayed in my brother's place in Dublin, and closed the door to go to bed. He never told me that the door on the bedroom was faulty. So I got up at 7 o'clock in the morning, ready for my full day of physio in Dublin. Went to open the door. The whole door handle just came off my hand like that.
I'd say Fitzy believed that.
I was like, oh, Jesus, no, please. We were 4 stories up. There was no one else in the house. I was stuck in the room for 8 hours. Oh, I rang Fitzmaher. I couldn't tell him that the door handle came up. I said, Eamon, I missed the train. The story went back. I got found out eventually, but fuck it, I never left it down after.
Oh. That's a good one. Did you ever tell him that, no?
Fuller fucking told him. Colin Fuller, a great physio in Santry, he was a comedic genius. And as soon as he heard, I literally was ruined for 2 years. Could not leave it down. So Eamon found out all right, but he half left me off. He dropped me all right, but he left me off.
We have got 2 absolute legends coming up later on as a special guests.
We do.
Cian O'Sullivan is one of those men in the 8 All-Irelands club. Now, you'll be hoping there'll be a few more added to that this weekend, is it? McCarthy, Fitzsimons, Cluxton could make a group of their own if they win at the weekend?
They could. They could. There's a lot on the line. There's a lot on the line.
Yeah, so Cian O'Sullivan joined us a little later, and Paul Galvin, what a legend, what a career he had in football. Like, Galvin's career goes back to the 90s playing football up until the mid-2000s.
See, I spent, when Galvin was announced, I've been shopping for the last 3 weeks trying to get some decent club outfits. Like, between the most handsome man in GAA and the most stylish man in GAA, and us three fucking shams. You put us under pressure there now.
I thought you talked about me and Tommy there.
We're under pressure, but they'd be good guests.
We are under pressure, yeah, absolutely. You and Galvin go back a while, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
You go back all the way to...
Galvin, yeah, he trained us in the SEM in secondary school. So you can imagine now David Clifford is teaching in the SEM as well. So you can imagine what influence that has on the young fellas in the school. Galvin was the same. Like when Galvin was with...
You can see Galvin. James is number 11, just above him. You haven't changed much, lad. You haven't changed much.
Oh, Jesus, Jimmy. Yeah. That haircut
I can't
is
see
tragic.
myself there. Where am I? Oh, but yeah, the haircut's not great, not to be fair.
What is that, a mushroom?
But you can imagine, though, having Galvin come in was unbelievable. Like.
You lost the Hogan Cup final, didn't you?
We lost Hogan Cup final by a point. We had a couple of injuries on the day, but Galvin, like, he came in and he just made you want to be a footballer. It was just incredible. Like, I think you need that kind of influence in your career.
What year was that? What year did Galvin come in teaching it?
That was 2008.
So he's big
honestly,
time himself.
I thought I was going to be David Beckham up until this. Like, I was obsessed with soccer. Like, I was complete soccer head. And then I met Galvin and a few more, and it was literally football was it. Then it was just a crazy kind of a change. But
so he would have been a football mentor to you.
Oh, honestly, what he did for some of those fellas in that school, like he changed all our coaching. I remember we used to be in study, we'd be studying for the Leaving Cert, and Galvin he'd come down. I never actually talked to him about this, and he'd drop a Vince Lombardi quote on the desk.
Wow.
So that you'd be studying for maths, and next thing he'd drop something on your desk, just the most motivational, inspirational quote. Sure, there was no fucking Leaving Cert being done after that. It was just out to the field. But like, you can imagine the amount of impact that had on us as young fellas was incredible. Like.
So he was a football mentor, but was he a fashion mentor?
I feel like you have a picture.
That is top class.
Hang on.
Oh,
now,
wow.
Can I just say,
Do we have any photos of Tommy? What the fuck's the story here? Like, we're getting destroyed.
Do you know what I like most? The golf shoes. Golf shoes with the baggy pants is top class. What age are
The
there?
baggy
26?
pants are savage. They were all in.
I have to thank Mike Leahy in the SEM. He's done an awful lot of work on the St. Brendan's archive, and there's an unbelievable legacy around football here.
Wow.
So Mike actually shared the photos on with me.
Send me that photo.
It's on my Instagram.
Yourself and Cian go back a long way.
We do, yeah. We're the same age. We played the whole way up, underage with Dublin from development squads. He was with Croke's, obviously. I was with Bridget's. We were laughing when we both retired. We retired similar enough times. We had a horrendous underage career. We never won anything. We were useless. We were beat by Laois, Offaly, you name it. Never won a Leinster, didn't even get the Leinster finals. And then we were both playing that day. Cian's championship debut was that 2009 game against. He came on and marked Galvin that day when we lost by 150 points to Kerry. And I remember that day I was marking Gooch. I cost us 140 of those points. And we were sitting in the dressing room going, this is not all it's cracked up to be, is it, playing with the Dubs, like. And 10 years later, we'd won.
All right.
He'd won 8. We'd won 7. So we didn't lose to Kerry again for a while. But now we would have went through a lot of that stuff at the time. We'd be tight enough now, yeah. I always remember, and he'll tell you himself now, when we finished, I finished in 2021 after the COVID year. And to be honest, I was on the scrap heap at that point. Desi was delighted to see the back of me. But Cian had loads of bad injuries and kind of was him and Hogan trying to give it another go. And Desi actually wanted him to stay. So it was like, he had a really tough decision to make. It's like a few of us had left and he kind of felt mentally maybe I might go at this time. He'll tell you the story himself in a few minutes. But he's like, there's still that little bit of an itch. that I can still add something here. And Dublin were going for 7 in a row at that time. Like, and you know, Jimmy, when it comes to the end, it's a hard place to be. You know, no matter what success or failures you've had, it's a special opportunity to play. And Keane was kind of really torn about this at the end. And I remember meeting him on the side of the N11. We were walking around the housing estate for about 3 hours. And he's like, what you think? And I was going to say, look, it's up to you, man. If you feel you have any sort of chance to keep going, well, then keep going. So if the body gives up, the body gives up. You know, you'll regret it more if you leave. And you'll always wonder, geez, maybe I would have had some miracle physio and I would have got through the season. We could have won the thing again. But if that's in your head, you'll kind of regret that if you don't try it. So we went back and tried it for a couple of months, and sure enough, the body gave up and he had to give it up. But I think he was far more at peace with going, he actually just couldn't do it anymore. And in a way, that's maybe a nicer way to kind of finish up when you just go, I left everything out there, I can't do it anymore. But I always remember we would have been tight and we would have had a couple of conversations when I'd finished and when he finished as well. So you have a connection with people when you spend that long with them. You'll have it with the Kerry boys, you have it with Paul, and we had it with our team as well, not just Keane, but a lot of players. It was a big part of why we were successful, how tight we all were. So I always just had massive time for him. Always good at, he was so good looking, but he is, and he still is. He looks even fucking better tonight. I was like, oh man, did you not get on O'Gara on or something like? But now he's a great bit of stuff, and they'll have good stories. We have a thing tomorrow. It's actually in here, a reunion for 2013, and O'Gara's going to be there, and he's going to knock the bollocks out of me. Anyway.
Yeah, that moustache was impressive, wasn't it?
Keno, it was. He could even pull off a moustache. Look at that. Yeah. That's downstairs. That's in the players' lounge. About half an hour after the 5 in a row, we had a good few points in there that day. And even that looks well, doesn't it? It's like, that's a trend. That's a trend. Like.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time to get out our special guests tonight. Could you please put your hands together for Paul Galvin and Cian O'Sullivan? How are you?
I didn't hear any of that now, so.
I'm bigging you up.
How are you, lads?
One easy on us.
Cian, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Paul Galvin.
It's great.
Thanks for coming along. Great to have you here.
It's like the Late Late Show.
Yeah, we just pulled you from the cafeteria.
James was disappointed he didn't get the call for the Late Late Show.
Oh.
James and Paddy.
I'll take the Renault. I don't know about the rest of it.
James O'Donoghue, in that St. Brendan's team that you would have coached, did you know he was going to become the footballer he did?
I did, to be honest with you, because most people in Kerry were aware of him. He was one of these prodigies that was known. So I did say to him, actually, I don't know if you remember this, but
I do. Yeah.
We won a Munster final, Carnivore final. Sam hadn't won it in maybe 15 or 16 years, but we had given James we pulled a little bit of a stroke with James on the day he was playing in a particular position all year, and we just changed him out to the 40 for a particular reason, and he just nailed it. You know what I mean? I think he got 1-6 that day, and that was the day I knew he was going to make it. And we were walking off, this was 2006, 7 or 8 maybe, and walking off the field that day I said, we're going to play for Kerry together. And we probably didn't do it enough really. I only got a few games with him and a few short years with him, unfortunately. But I mean, he was always going to make it. I think a lot of people were aware of him from a young age. I was very lucky to see him and work with him at that age. He was a super talent and a guy that, you know, everybody in Kerry loved him. We loved him as a teammate, and it was great to see him blossom, you know.
It's a wonder they kept your feet in the ground after a comment like that, James.
I didn't. No, I definitely shit my pants after that. I was like, this is now real, like, this is, you have to kick on. At the same time, so it was a case of, even Paul saying to me at the time, you actually have ability, like, do you want to go ahead and do it or not? Do you know, so
Well,
that was an incredibly powerful.
The ability was obvious to everybody. Everybody in Kerry knew about James really at that age. He was known, but it was the fact of, and I suppose I would have us, I even now would rate him really highly. If you're a coach and you pull a stroke on the day of a game and you tell this guy, look, here's what we're going to do because they're doing this, we're going to do this. So you need to do a little bit of this, and we're going to. When you give a player that kind of instruction and he nails it, that's how I knew. It wasn't to do with the ability. It was the intellect.
Yeah.
At 17, to be able to take the instruction, completely nail it, and win us the game. You know.
Yeah.
That was the difference, I think.
Cian, yourself and Paddy grew up playing underage together, didn't you?
We did, yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of broke through around the same time under Pat Gilroy. Was it 08 or 09?
Yeah, you were probably 08, I was 09, were you 07?
You got to go with Pillars last year. You got hammered by Tyrone that year as well. It's quite a traumatic early experience now. But,
I'm glad I missed those
we
years.
were just saying we had a terrible underage, didn't we? We played the whole way up and we couldn't hardly win a game.
We did. We shared a lot of lows early on, and then thankfully they turned into some highs. But remember one that particularly still to this day stands out as a sore point. But I think Offaly in a Leinster semi-final.
Yeah.
Or was it even a Leinster final?
Two Offaly people there.
Okay, you've told the story already, have you?
Yeah.
Was it Ken Casey? He scored
Ken Casey, corner forward.
Scored two. We lost 2-6 to 11 points, I think.
Yeah. A classic.
But a minor, like minor means so much, and at the time, like inconsolable after that defeat. And we were a really good team. Like if you look back at the amount of players from that crop that then went on to play part of that good Dublin team that won a couple of All Irelands, there was quite a number of those players there. But underage, yeah.
It's funny.
For some reason, didn't click.
Yeah, but it's just even listening and even looking back on what your Dublin team go on to achieve. Those losses obviously had a massive impact. Like whether they checked you or made you rethink what you were doing. Paddy mentioned it earlier. Was this your debut coming off the bench in 2009?
My debut.
27 minutes in, Kerry 110. Dublin have just scored their second or third point. They had
you
your
were
own man, Paul Galvin.
Footballer of the year that year, I think, maybe as well. So my debut coming in.
Is that your debut? Your championship
debut? How many points
debut?
were down? 11 points down after 20. God,
that's some baptism of fire.
Yeah.
We were looking for an impact off. We didn't get anything out of it.
Well,
I think they might bring on some forwards to score a few points, but yeah, we'll bring on a half-back.
I remember it very well because he went on a burst shortly after that. He went on a burst down the field and didn't get a pass.
Brogan didn't give it to him.
Didn't get a pass.
That sounds about right.
Thank you. Whoever didn't pass that ball, thank you.
I think you were safe enough at that stage now, to be fair. But that was it, 2009, start of Lear Weeks, we lost by 17 points that day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
2 years later, different story, so... Yeah. So yeah, a lot changed. Paddy and I would have been on that journey a lot to get... Paddy, underage, was a child prodigy. He was talk of the town in Dublin. Probably helped that he was the same size that he is now from the age of probably 7.
The arse is a bit bigger now.
Yeah. But he was
Self-professed prophecy as well, I think, was it?
You were playing minor at like
15.
15. Yeah, he was 3 or 4 years minor, so good time.
You talk about it, Jimmy. We've spoken this on the pod a couple of times before. That this nearly proves the point that you're right. When you're 16, 17, 18 years of age, that's all that matters. Like, this is life. Like, Leave it cert and all that stuff is great, but you're winning with your teammates, with your school or your club or your county. And Jimmy, you've always said it. Nearly losing those type of games can nearly be better in the long term. That it builds that bit of edge, bit of resilience in a player. And this was definitely a thing for me. I thought it was better than it was, and I wasn't. And you get your feedback when you go up the levels. And being great at underage and being successful at underage can nearly soften you in a way. I think that's what's so impressive with Clifford, because he's had incredible success at underage, and it's nearly been seamless, his transition into the senior team. But those big defeats, I think most certainly in our experience, and with a lot of those guys, Johnny Cooper, Rory O'Carroll, these guys, Dermot Connolly, they were hard times, but it made you appreciate and it made you focus a hell of a lot more as you broke into the senior team and lead to that success. So there's brilliant lessons to be learned, both on the pitch and off the pitch from those defeats, and nearly winning a lot earlier can make you a little bit soft at times.
But losing is way more powerful. Like even when you win and you're young, you're reading the paper, or you're fucking listening to your aunt or your uncle telling you that you're good. Even, do you remember when Jack? Yeah, listening to podcasts. When Jack was manager, Paul, I remember he used to say, under no circumstances would anybody to read the fucking paper, like, because it just softens your mind.
I would have thought that went without saying now, to be honest with you. I'm amazed anybody was thinking about reading papers.
There was a few up the top of the bus with the double spread.
I kept a few. I would find a few. I kept a few bits for sure, like, but it can be useful. But Jesus, I mean, as a hobby now and a regular thing I'm amazed that anybody would be thinking about reading a newspaper.
Yeah, fair enough.
But to Paddy's point, and it's
I have every cutout that I've ever known myself.
But to Paddy's point, and it's a huge one, and it's the one I think about a lot, and specifically with Stephen Cluxton.
Yeah.
I think I'm right in saying he had 12 years playing, or 11 years playing.
2001 was a senior debut.
Wow.
10 years before he wins his first All-Ireland. That's a whole career.
It's unreal.
It's absolutely incredible. So, you know, I look at my own career, let's say, I was quite old. I found it hard to make it. I was 24 making my championship debut. You know, 25, 26, and it's possibly too late. Yeah. But I started at 24. So late for you? Pardon?
Why was it so late for you?
I don't know. I was a bit immature, maybe. I don't really know. Paddy was there at the time. I would love to have played for Paddy. I was trying my hardest, and I really wanted to play for Paddy. But I was in there as a sub and that, but I didn't make a championship debut. I didn't make a championship start till 24, 2004, age 24. And I was around for a year or two prior to that. And I had an injury one year, and anyway, I didn't make it because I didn't make it. But the thing was, so the next 6 years, my first 6 years, six finals, win 4. And, you know, I've whatever many, 5 or 6 more years left, and no All-Ireland.
No Sam.
Right? So I think that's a very interesting piece about that starting out and getting the success early or not getting it early, and if you don't get it early, what you make of it when you do get it. And these guys, I think, are just making the absolute most of it. And Cluxton, you know, I think he deserves so much credit. I just find that fact phenomenal, that you could go 10 years and be the brunt of, and be the focus of criticism, and be the focus of some mistakes and cost some goals, and you know what I mean. He had these moments out here where mistakes were made and there was questions asked. And now, I mean, to do what he has done, I must say, it's one of the greatest achievements in sport for me. And you know, more look to him, like I see him back now, and I think, I mean, 10 years is a career, and how he has turned it around, I think, is phenomenal.
He's 42 now, isn't he?
42, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Some people were saying it was desperate that he came back.
We might hold that.
Not naming any names.
I never said anything against Cluxton.
Not naming any names.
I never said anything against Cluxton. I said.
Look at this.
I can't even remember what I said.
Hold on.
I don't think we should talk about that.
Hold on.
Too many evidence.
I'd be surprised if he did.
Let's have a look.
I'd be surprised if there wasn't a point.
Let's actually have a look at what he said.
Well, we have the clip. Brilliant. Yeah. Even better. What were you saying, Jimmy?
Can I ask you why? Like, why would he come back? Why would they want him back?
You're not picking him up either, Tommy.
Yeah, he's 41. It's 2.5 years after he's retired.
He's still one of the best players that's ever played GAA. You don't think Stephen Cluxton, okay, even if he's not at his absolute peak of 10 years ago, do you not think he would add something positive to that dressing room?
I don't doubt that. Well, I guess I'm wondering what's driving.
Don't answer the questions. Like, you can try and put a negative spin on this. I don't see how you could put a negative spin on this.
There is a negative spin. Smells of desperation.
There is a
Thank you. Every week I have to deal with this stuff. Like.
You only have 2 goalies, 2 good goalies, in fairness to them. Comfort in
Keep it rolling.
He'll be back. They're bringing back a 41-year-old. You're thinking, where are the leaders in that dressing room to take that on in the last 2.5 years, rather than have to revert back? Like, I know they brought back Manny, they brought back McCaffrey, brilliant additions and everything, but now to go back to Cluxton as well, it's like you're kind of almost flogging a dead horse rather than kind of moving on. So they could have gone and got new leaders to take that group forward.
Flogging a dead horse.
It does smell a bit of desperation, in my opinion.
Okay. I will give it to you, James.
No, my point there was. Where was everyone else in the dressing room to take it on in the period of him not being there? That was my point. Like, everything has to move on after unbelievable characters and leaders leave the dressing room. But it was a sign, I thought at the time, that this Dublin dressing room hasn't moved on to the next level without him, and that they had to bring him back. Wasn't a good sign of the camp. I'd actually stand by that. That's not to say that he is not the best goalkeeper of all time. Jesus Christ, one of the best athletes in Ireland ever. There's no doubt about that. But if for an insight, I thought at the time, into the Dublin dressing room, it just didn't sit great at the time. That they had Comerford and they had O'Hanlon.
He was injured.
O'Hanlon was, well, Comerford had a knock. O'Hanlon was starting.
This is great.
Comerford was injured.
This is a great watch.
Back to the Renos.
But
Thank you,
I
Paul.
will say
Thank
there's
Paddy's
if he comes back and wins it, I will hold my hands up and I'll say, look, fair enough. But there's one more game.
Yeah.
There's one more game.
Yeah.
It came out today that he's still in the retired Dublin WhatsApp group. Michael Darren McCauley confirmed that earlier on.
He never puts that in any group anyway, so it probably is. Probably in about 50 WhatsApp groups.
Who's the admin of that?
But you see, he was working all the time. He wasn't.
Do you reckon?
Wasn't, yeah, you know, this guy was watching. I'm sure was watching and minding himself. And it's no coincidence he's no goal conceded either, by the way. Yeah. You know, and he could play next year. You know what I mean? I don't buy into this that it's 1 year for him. It possibly is, and it's possibly 1 year for the others. But from what I can see of Cluxton, he could easily play again next year and play for two more years. You couldn't predict the guy, I don't think.
No, 100%, Paul. He's an incredible athlete that some people mightn't fully appreciate. The physical condition that he's in, strength and conditioning, top of the pops in the team. Like, you know, if you're doing a 10-yard dash, his power off a standing position is head and shoulders now. He might trail off once you get past 10 yards, but from 0 to 10, he's out like a shot in front of everyone. Like the training, prep, the way he looks after his body is like, you know, being in goals is not an easy position. You know, it's really, really challenging.
He possibly feels he's better now. He possibly feels himself he's better than he was before. You know, you don't know. Yeah. You don't know what kind of work he was doing. But this type of mentality, you never know what he discovered while he was out. Yeah. What kind of new preparation, techniques, training, habits he picked up. He could feel himself, and that's all that matters. He could feel himself that he's better than he was before.
The big thing, Paul, I was defending him, and we're very nearly protective of him because we were fortunate enough to play with him. He's such a incredible player, but an incredible teammate as well. And at that time, he hadn't played in 2 years. And look, he's a little bit older, and we weren't certain that he was going to come back and do what he's done in the summer on the pitch. Technically, he's been outstanding. His kick-outs, he hasn't missed a beat. But even if that had deteriorated, and we weren't sure at the time because, look, that could possibly have happened, what he brings to the dressing room and the impact he has in terms of lots of those younger guys, the likes of David O'Hanlon, Evan Comerford, lots of new guys that had to come into the Dublin team because we're all washed up now, we're gone. Dublin needed to bring through new guys, and that was a big challenge for Dessie Farrell. Cluxton just being there, he trains every day now like he did 20 years ago. It's incredible. Like there's never, like, not one day, one session, one gym session, one recovery session, one analysis session where he's not on it all the time. And that alone, if this guy is coming back and he's won 100 All-Irelands and he comes into the dressing room and you're a kid looking at him, well, you better get your fucking act together, because if he's doing it, everyone else has to as well. And that alone was what he was going to bring into the dressing room. And it's just so happened, and we shouldn't be surprised because we've been fortunate to play with him for so long, that he just happens to be unbelievable on the pitch as well. So,
in the dressing room dynamics, I've always been curious of this. Is he one of the lads, or is he nearly in a tier of his own, closer to the managers, or like how does that work like?
there's a common misconception that he's no crack.
Yeah.
Which is not true.
He's one of the lads. Like, yeah, he is.
He is.
Okay.
Very funny.
Well, James just stuck 2 goals in him in 2013, so James is probably looking at him going, I stuck 2 goals in him, he's only okay.
I think we might be coming back to that in a few minutes. James, you would have seen that yourself in Kerry. Certain players coming back into the dressing room or players coming back at certain times and they just raise the standards, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And
do you want me to leave you for a few minutes to recover? Or will I?
No, I think that a player going back into a dressing room, you have to be absolutely fucking on it. Yeah. And there's no doubt about that. And I remember there was one time actually, I don't know did I say this before, but Paul came back into the dressing room in 13 after maybe taking a break after 12. No, but during the league. Do you remember we played the whole National League in 13 with a fucking bang average team, and we were nearly getting relegated.
You were all kids, weren't you?
Yeah, and I don't think you played National League in 13. You came back towards the end of National League, and without even knowing it, our training sessions it actually just dropped down in quality a bit, just absolutely naturally. Maybe a couple of big leaders weren't there in the dressing room, just like you say, Paddy, someone on it all the fucking time.
Standards, yeah.
And I remember one of the older fellas kicked the ball down the line in training and it went over the end line, and it would have been a senior enough player. And Paul turned to him and said, "What the fuck was that like?" Do you know,
I hardly use language not like that today.
You said, what on earth was that?
What on earth was that? What the blazes was that?
But everyone in training just went, whoa. It was like, anyway, sort your kicking. We're a kicking team, sort your kicking. And for kind of an elite leader to almost go after another leader, an elite player, and just raise everyone else. I remember we talked about it in our own little circles for so long after. It was like, we got to be on it. It just, without him saying anything individually to maybe some of the younger players, just that little bit of a nugget of criticism towards a fella on his level did so much for the group. So like when you say that about someone like Cluxton, I can understand it, but I'd still have left Comerford and goals.
So, Paul Mannion comes back, Jack McCaffrey comes back, Coddy Basquel is actually brought back as well. He's had an unbelievable year. Stephen Cluxton comes back. The one that caught my eye was Pat Gilroy coming back. And we mentioned 09 there and the role that Gilroy had in turning it around for 11. Were you called to come back in?
No, I was not, unfortunately.
But Gilroy going back, what did that say to you boys?
Well, again, like the Cluxton proposition, like if you have this tool at your disposal, like give me any manager in the country that's going to say no to having someone like Pat.
He's a scary man.
In whatever capacity that is.
He's a scary man.
Yeah, but again, he's a hardy, but he's quite a lot of fun too, and he develops a really good rapport and connection with the players, you know, and they love having him around the dressing room. And
what was he like after that game in 09?
Nobody was like anything after that game in 09. It was curl up in a ball and find a quiet little corner to hide away. I do remember after that game, because obviously we were getting a lot of abuse from fans, and rightly so, and there was the potential for a lot of fingers to be pointed and who was to blame or what went wrong. But Pat, that night, we were going out to drown our sorrows, and he just pulled us in and he said, lads, I've been in dressing rooms before, defeats like this, and it's a cancer. Stick together tonight. Do not go off in little pods, little cliques. You know, look yourself in the mirror. Take accountability for the game that you played today, and that's the only person that's answerable to the performance, nobody else. And don't be going pointing fingers or saying what I should have, could have. Something that stuck with me, but he was always very straight, and he's very much about taking personal responsibility. And I think, you know, that's something that teams try and achieve and talked about a lot. You know, if you see something, say it, but it's kind of hard. Especially when your teammates, it's kind of hard to pull them up on things, and you know sometimes it's hard giving constructive or negative feedback. Pat has no problems with that, and he's always dead on the money when he says it as well. So I And no, he's definitely a massive addition.
Yeah, we might come back to some of that later on. Paul, when you're reared in a team of the O'Shea brothers and Seamus Moynihan, backbone it, and you've got yourself and Declan and Gooch and Starr in the mid-2000s, I presume you're all standard setters for each other. That must have been a ferocious dressing room to be a part of.
Yeah, it was. I suppose that was kind of the remnants of Paddy's team that I would have been probably a fringe player on, and Jack took the reins in at the end of 03, and it was a very different side, really. When I was thinking about it, when I was thinking about the 14 side, we'll say that James was the kind of key part of to the 04 team. I mean, it's so different in terms of personality, and probably the age profile. That 04 team was probably was an older team, but yeah, I suppose that's where I come from, really. I'm old school, really. Like that was my come up. Seamus Moynihan, Dara, like William Kirby. I think Sunday's crying out for William Kirby, that type of player, really important player for Kerry in that early stage, 04, 05, 06. He was a great player for us. Johnny Crowley was another guy on that team that, really brilliant players, really hard to handle, mentally tough, physically tough, plenty football, and yeah, that was Jack. I suppose an interesting thing about that team was that final in 04, we won without Dara and Seamus Moynihan. So on the back of that 03, Tyrone won that 03 semi-final. To think that 8 or 9 months later, if somebody said to you after that semi-final, you'll win next year's All-Ireland without Dara O'Shea and without Seamus Moynihan.
But Paul, he had been, and this is my only mention I'm going to give him tonight, he had been hammered by Meath in 2001.
Had to get something in.
2002, beaten in the All-Ireland semi-final, Tyrone in 2003, All-Ireland final in 2002, Tyrone in 2003. 2004 wasn't a gimme. Like, Kerry were under savage pressure that year.
It was a big part of my education, really, as a player. It was my introduction. I watched the 01 game on the Cusack stand, and that was a destruction by me. There was really just a real destruction in every way. I was watching the 02 final at home in Kerry, and I was on the line. Right, I witnessed that whole swarm episode, and it was just a huge part of my education as a player. So when I got in 04, I thought, there's no rules to this, really. And I said, I will give everything I've seen in the last 3 years, I'm going to give back. And that was my simple enough tactic. But it was a big one. It was a big win. That to do it, especially without Dara and Seamus then for the final. Yeah. They were the leader. They were the best players. Like, they were two of the best players in the country, and our two best players. So it was really down to Jack. Jack was very systematic at the time. He did a lot of coaching. I got a lot of coaching from him, and he was very deliberate in terms of how we played. Positionally, he was big on positions. And now it's interesting to watch him today, where the game has gone, and there are no positions. And there's things happening now that I look back, 15 years ago, or how long ago? 20 years, nearly 20 years ago, and you think, well, he would never have allowed that. You see, I was at the Louth game actually, and early in the Louth game, I was behind the goals. Kerry were attacking, and a couple of minutes into the game, the nearest three players to the Louth goal, were Graham O'Sullivan, Jason Foley, and Tom O'Sullivan, up here right in front of me. Now, I was like, Jack would have lost his mind over that when we were starting out. If I got ahead of the ball, he'd stop the game. Get out of there. Don't go here until this happens. And he was coaching. I know the game is just different, and he's evolved with it. And I think this is a thing that teams do. They take you up and take you out of position and try and occupy these blanket defences and whatnot. And interesting evolution, Yeah. But that was a very interesting 04 team. My favourite Kerry team was that 04 team.
Was it really? Okay.
Yeah. What was that like for? It was unbelievable, like say, legends of the game in that 04 team, and obviously Paddy's personality and his reputation as a coach. And then Jack comes in and starts trying to implement quite a lot of change, really radical change in 04. And you've got the likes of Seamus Moynihan and the O'Sheas. And were they receptive to that? There's obviously a massive connection with Paddy. Or was that a seamless transition, or was that a difficult at times for Jack?
I'd say it was challenging. Like, to be fair, it was a tough situation. You know, the circumstances of Paddy's exit was rough on Paddy, and it was rough on the boys, and it was public, and it was tough. I remember all that playing out. So whoever came in had a management issue there, I think, with regard to just, you know, communicating with the boys and bringing them. So listen, I don't know, but I know that it would have been a challenge for anybody. And then in terms of the playing, like, I was somebody he coached a lot, and I needed it. Dara, I don't know, did he give the same level, or did the boys need the same level of coaching? Dara, Tomas and Mark, probably with Tomas, maybe he liked Tomas to release the ball. He liked Tomas to run without the ball.
Okay.
He liked Tomas to release it and move rather than carry it.
Yeah.
At the time, he didn't like halfbacks carrying the ball at all. And Tomas would carry it a bit, and I would have noticed it a lot, because I was probably looking at Tomas going by me.
Give us
And if
like
you're
going by Bernard at that time.
So and it's one I look at wing forwards today, you know, and they don't get a lot of ball from halfback. Dara Moynihan and Adrian Spillane. I needed it. We would have played halfback to half forward a lot. But Jack had to introduce that, and he had to coach that, and you have to say to Tomas, use him and go again, and you know, he'll pull his man with him, and there'll be more space inside or whatever.
But do you think, Paul, that that's Jack's mantra, or do you think that he went with that because that was what he had in front of him? Like, did he go with half-back to half-forward that time because of the half-back and half-forward line players he had? And has he told these fellas not to do that because of what he has? Like, if you even look at the kick passers that we have in half-back line at the moment, we probably don't have that. We have kind of ball carriers rather than kickers, and our half-forward line players probably don't make those runs for a kick pass either. There's a skill in receiving a kick pass that people don't actually appreciate. I don't think we have that. So do you think that he made it a case of, we'll do the kicking because of what he had with G, or was that his philosophy that he's just abandoned?
Oh, I don't think he's abandoned it. I just think the game. I think it's the way the game is now, and I think probably the boys are doing the coaching maybe as well. I don't know who's doing the coaching. Is he doing it, or
Paddy Tally's probably doing.
Whatever, but certain teams you had to do it. Against Cork, we would always do it. Against Cork, we would always go half back to half forward, and it would just engage all these Cork halfbacks. It was like.
I think every top team does that. I just think it's a natural thing to go you should have your almost the most creative players in the half forward line, 10, 11, 12. Pepper them with ball as much as you can. Get them on a kick pass.
The link men.
ASAP.
Yeah. It's like, you know, Alan Brogan used to do it perfectly for Dublin. CK in that role can do it too, where you're linking the defence transition out into the offence, you know. Probably not seeing it as much as that in previous years. You were obviously very good at it.
I saw Philly.
We were also playing very long at the time. We were also playing very long. We would actually have played. I remember my first championship game against Clare, and I was going from half-back to full forward. So it was going long.
The ball.
Yeah, the boys were.
But even in 04 in the final, we went long.
We did from the middle of the field, though.
Yeah. Johnny Crowley started that day, or was that 06?
He started 04.
Jack pulled a trick in 04. Started Crowley.
He did,
Didn't think Mayo could handle the defence.
Johnny was a huge player for us.
Yeah.
And Kerry was a huge player for us.
Yeah. I think the big thing on it, and we would have seen this a lot through our team, the best teams and the best coaches need to evolve with the changes. And I think Jack O'Connor's longevity is testament to that. But even in our period, we won Jim Gavin's first year in 2013. Obviously a very famous game against you guys in the semi-final, but it was unbelievably enjoyable to play. It was there wasn't a whole point of tactics. It was
full court
we're
press.
attacking. We're going to go full court press. We'll go after the kickouts. We'll kick the ball. There'll be loads of mistakes. You do a couple of the games were on during COVID, and you've seen them, and it was like, Jesus, you're looking at it now because you've gone through the evolution and all that. Mad, we'd never played that way. And we ended up evolving to, say, James last year, the 5-in-a-row game in 19, where we had developed into a very measured style of play, where kicking the ball away was just an absolute cardinal sin. And that was just in the space of 6 years with the same players and the same managers, but we had to look at it and say that we were kind of scared by the Donegal game of 14, and it was like, scrap ball, that's all lovely, it'd be great to do that, but we just got to win. And we felt we had to change our style. Pretty radical changes in how we attacked, yeah.
Yeah, but I also think it was in response to how teams were setting up against us as well. It wasn't always driven by what we were trying to achieve. So you had a period of mass defences, now we're seeing a bit of possession, keep ball, and the top teams have to cut their cloth to set up against these styles of play. You know, I'm hoping and I'm thanking that the two teams that are playing on Sunday won't be setting out that way, and it'll be more traditional type setups, and we'll see hopefully some snippets of 2013 relived again. But
speaking of 2013, Cian, some of the football played that day was glorious. Let's have a look at this.
Jordan Connolly there with him. He has to go back and get help from Colin Cooper. Thought about the shot. He goes with a very precise pass.
Is that Jimmy?
Nice finish, Jamesy. That is a nice finish. Paddy, you actually called for this tape today. This is quite an important video clip in the history of your team.
I'm so sick of this clip.
Pause that just there now. If you could pause it, just go back 1 second.
Yeah, we'll get it back in a second. Talk us through it. Why was that so important to your team? You win this game. It's an unbelievable game of football.
Well, it's this man here has had 6 years of hardship after it. We sat down after Tuesday night after, and we were reviewing the game. And Dec Darcy was brilliant coach, defensive coach. Shows that clip. I was like, what's wrong with this? And we're all scribbling. No, but you're with your notepad and your pen. And, this is going to be a great point, Jim. Yeah, totally agree. And Keno got pulled on it. And it was like, rewind the clip again. And if you just pause it here, you got pulled. This conversation went on for fucking about 3 hours. That Keno O'Sullivan should have been 1 step further to his left to cut off the passing lane. And this is what we were like as a team. And this was kind of the early iterations of it. We spoke about this. We couldn't get out of St. Clair's. They wouldn't let us leave until we could all get agreement. And Keno, why didn't you take 1 step to the left in half a second of play?
But is that step from Gooch not unmarkable?
It was to play a little deep. Like I would be glad if it was just those 3 hours that was the start and end of that conversation. It was 10 years of that. Remember Kerry 2013? Yeah. And I was like, jeez, anytime we played against Kerry, they loved that pop ball into the D, you know? Yeah. Protect the D, protect the full back line. Like, that was a moment of genius from the Gooch, in fairness, but I was kind of the extra man in that play, and apparently I should have been closer in so that James could have had the ball. Or if I was pressing, make yourself useful and press, and don't let him get that pass.
I remember it. You were getting hammered, and all the corner forwards were up, writing away, looking around like, yeah, Keane, what the fuck are we at? Like, we're up kicking all the spinners, and you can't take 1 step to your left. Like,
it went on for so long that it was just, at the end, I didn't agree with it, but at the end I was like, yeah, fine. Yeah, no.
That was a pretty good finish too.
It won't happen again. That's fine.
I don't know if you remember the weekend before that game in Fota. Mm-hmm. We did a weekend in Fota the weekend before that game. Those passes that day by Gooch, I actually felt, for Gooch, they were okay. They were okay. I don't know if you remember the pass in the training game the weekend before. He pulled the pass out of the bag the weekend before that. That is still remains the best I've ever seen. He pulled the pass out of the left-hand corner forward position. So it was like a cross into the box in a game of soccer. So the end line was here, and he just won it, and he looked into the middle, and Darren was coming through the middle, in line with the back post. He had to beat his man, the goalie, and Darren's man, and he just whipped this cross into the box, right into Darren's pans, and he put it in the net. And it's the only time I've ever gone, wow, what a pass! It was just like a cross into the box in soccer. Yeah. Like much better than those. Yeah. I thought it was amazing. He had less space. He had less space to play with.
Yeah.
Darren was moving at top speed. There was like the width of the ball in terms of space to play with to get it across. It was amazing.
But I think the genius in that move was
your goal, your finish.
It's your finish, is it?
No,
you'll see me on the ground as well there, which is another story.
Actually, probably taking a point here. Only it was harder to chip a point the angle I was going than to, because it was early in the game. But with Gooch, he took 2 steps back while still being in complete control of where he was and where he will be in a couple of seconds' time with his head up. And we had meetings upon meetings about whenever the Gooch was out there, someone had to be running towards the penalty spot because there will be a goal chance. Every time Gooch got the ball in his hand, he just had a brain that was on a different wavelength. And the amount of times he actually picked up the ball right on the 11th spot. It's the hardest ball to get in football, I think, that you're actually getting the ball on the 11th spot and you can turn and kick it into the full forward. If you can get those 2 passes off, it's a goal chance, and Gooch would always get them off. It was just different level.
You can't underestimate the soft hands from Donncha Walsh there as well.
He got himself in that position so many times.
Yeah.
I think about 16 as well, a little deft touch to set up a goal, and we were always very wary of him because obviously he was a massive worker and put in huge yards, but offensively, like, he was a very tricky one for sneaking in behind.
Picked up great positions,
Yeah, and picking up really dangerous positions, and good example of it there, yeah.
He would put up ridiculous numbers in the GPS.
Imagine.
Ridiculous. And then he just end up, when his man was knackered, he'd just creep in the back door and
Yeah.
waving his hands in oceans of space.
You'll notice I'm on the ground in that clip as well, by the way, which is another matter. And the linesman saw what happened. And anyway, and there was blood, But anyway,
I missed that. You love playing the Dubs. Like, I've been reading your book back this week. There's an unbelievable story from 04 when you said you're just establishing yourself as an inter-county footballer, and there's a moment at half-time when you play the Dubs in the quarter-final. The Kerry team are out. It's a draw game. The Dubs have left you waiting for 2 minutes, and it hits you what it means to be playing county football against the Dubs.
Yeah, there was that moment. I still remember it really clearly. It was a very strong moment for me in terms of, it was 2004. It was probably my 4th championship game, 3 in Munster, and that was the quarter-final, I think, which was my fourth game. And it just the hill that day, I'll never forget it, waiting for the Dubs to come out. I was on the Hogan side, and they started that chant of the boys in blue, and it was just their hands. It looked like a shoal of fish. Their hands were going. The chant was amazing. They were just singing in unison. It looked amazing. It sounded amazing. It felt amazing. And I thought, wow, this is incredible. And it still now even gives me goosebumps now to think of it. But yeah, and I just felt that from then on, I just said, I want this. I really want to be part of this going forward, you know. And it was, I can imagine as a player, when they get behind you, it's got to be powerful. As an opponent, you've got to go with it. You've got to try and allow it in and inspire you. But I can imagine, and it may have been tough for the early Dublin teams, I'd say, maybe dealing with it. You know, if you weren't winning, that was probably a bit of pressure attached to the hill, maybe. But
I find it very interesting. You scored more points in your career against Dublin than you did against any other county. So just showed you raised your levels in your.
Well, I was far from prolific now, but
I've asked Paddy quite a few times in the pod that feeling, like we've mentioned the Kevin McMiniman goal when he's going for a point in 13, the noise in the stadium that day. Was that the moment that sticks out? What is the like?
No, that one sticks out head and shoulders
Really?
some of the rest. That was just the roof just lifted on the place. And when the ball goes in and you're playing, you're just so focused on autopilot. You could be playing anywhere. And there's been 2 occasions, I think, when I've kind of snapped out of it and been like, holy Christ, what's going on here? And Kev Mack scored that goal, like, I actually think the ground was shaking. Like, the place just erupted. And yeah, phenomenal. Clear as day as today. And then 2016 as well. I think when Dermo got that score.
Left peg.
With the left peg after missing 2 or 3 before that. But what an amazing score. But they're big moments and they're big momentum shift. Luckily, those 2 moments that I remember were positive ones for Dublin. I can only imagine what it feels like being on the opposite end of a situation like that.
It's amazing if the 2 boys here would have been sucker punched by both of those scores. 16 and 13.
16.
What's
16 was.
You know, the free that wasn't given.
Oh yeah, Goff.
Did anyone get Goff a pointer? David, go out and get a pointer. It's on me.
That was free. That 13 one though was so tense because it was a level when that kick-out came out.
It was.
Yeah, it was.
Darren
missed to go ahead. Like.
We got.
Declan O'Sullivan pulled one.
Yeah, so it was
we won a kick out. Jack McCaffrey had it, and he got called for bloody step. I don't know who was the ref that day.
In 13, wasn't
matter.
Anyway.
I think it was Joe.
Dublin Joe.
You said it, I didn't.
Another great ref.
Jeez. But Jack got called for steps. I think he was given a free, and then he stopped to take his free, but he overridden the free or whatever. So it was a turnover ball, and we'd all gone flying that way. On the counter attack, we'd won a kick out, and I remember after this game, obviously the heroics for Mick McCauley to slap that ball was very clear and plain for everyone to see. But the thing that we focused about on that play was how everyone responded to that little setback of getting the free given away from us. Like every right to go effing and moaning to the ref, giving out about the free, but everyone was switched on. What's the threat? What's the danger? Kerry on a power play. I don't know who got it in on the Hogan stand, but they were marching to go. I think it was Philly McMahon did unbelievable defending to turn his man the other way, and then we were just hunting impacts and like dogs. And Declan O'Sullivan got a shot away, but he was under pressure.
Yeah.
So he missed it. And then there was the kick out. But if that point had gone over, different story.
Fine lines. We are just about to take a break here on the Football Pod Live, but I do have breaking news. The Kerry team have been named. It's been released. So we have it there. There's one big change. Stephen O'Brien starts instead of Adrian Spillane at 12. So, Paul, can I get your instant reaction to that? The team is as expected. Shane Ryan in goals, Graham O'Sullivan, Jason Foley, Tom Sullivan, Paul Murphy, Tyg Morley, Gavin White, Jérôme O'Connor and Jack Barry midfield, Darren Moynihan, Shawnee Shea, Stephen O'Brien, Paddy Clifford, David Clifford, Paul Ganey.
Yeah, I think it was a powerful second half by Stephen. It was going to be hard to hold him off. I think probably given you have James McCarthy, Small and Lee Gannon in that Dublin half back line, I think you probably needed a bit of experience in there maybe to stiffen that line a small bit.
We'll actually come back after the break, because once I mentioned the break, I think everybody went to the Jackson to get a point. So thanks a million for listening so far. We'll be back after the break talking about the match. Thank you.